Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into something absolutely wild. We're going to explore the hidden collision between our fast-paced digital world and our ancient biology. We'll be zooming all the way in to the microscopic synapses firing inside our brains right this very second, and then zooming way out to look at the literal macroevolution of the human species. So let's unpack how these devices we stare at all day are impacting us in ways we probably never even imagined.
Right off the bat, I want you to think about this question. Is the way you scroll, search, and use AI right now actually rewriting the biological blueprint of a generation that hasn't even been born yet? I know, it sounds totally like science fiction, but as you'll see, the emerging science points to some really surprising biological consequences tied to our daily digital habits. Because we aren't just changing our minds here, we might actually be changing our fundamental biology.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, the digital brain drain.
Okay, so this whole thing starts with a concept called cognitive offloading. You know when you can't remember an actor's name, so you instantly just pull out your phone to search for it? Or maybe you ask an AI to draft a tricky email for you. That is cognitive offloading in action. Every time we do that, we're taking the heavy lifting of remembering, retrieving information, or reasoning, and just handing it straight over to a digital tool. Basically, we're letting the algorithm do the thinking for us.
And this leads us straight into what researchers call the Google effect, or digital amnesia. Here's the thing, our brains are incredibly efficient, but they're also kind of lazy. When we constantly offload our memory to the internet, the memory center of our brain, the hippocampus, doesn't really have to work hard. Since the brain knows that info is stored safely online, it essentially says, why waste the energy trying to remember this? And it just doesn't encode the memory.
Which brings us to Section 2, use it or lose it. There's this super famous rule in neurobiology coined by Donald Hebb way back in 1949. Cells that fire together, wire together. Basically, when you use specific neural pathways to solve tough problems, those connections get stronger. The nerve impulses travel faster, and those circuits become your brain's preferred pathways. But here's the kicker. Those pathways absolutely require active cognitive effort and mental friction to stay sharp. So, what happens when we remove that friction? Well, the physical evidence is honestly kind of shocking. If technology takes away our need to think deeply, our brains literally start pruning away those unused cognitive networks just to save energy. Researchers are seeing shrinking gray matter in the anterior cingulate cortex. That's the part of your brain vital for focus. Heavy tech users are showing cortical thinning in the prefrontal cortex, which is in charge of executive control. And maybe most importantly, all this divided attention shifts our brain's activity over to the striatum, meaning we rely less on flexible memory and more on rigid automatic habits. Cognitive scientist Daniel Willingham hit the nail on the head when he said, memory is the residue of thought. You see, learning requires a productive struggle. When you wrestle with a difficult problem, it triggers your brain's dopamine reward cycle, which makes you want to keep pushing. But if an AI just hands you the answer instantly, you skip the struggle, you miss out on that hit of dopamine, and the memory, it just never forms. Moving deeper into our biology, let's hit Section 3, the epigenetics of tech. Now, epigenetics literally translates to above genetics. It's all about the molecular processes that regulate how our genes are expressed without actually changing the underlying DNA code itself. Think of it like this. Your DNA is the hardware, and epigenetics is the software that tells the hardware what to do. By attaching these little molecules called methyl groups to your DNA, epigenetic mechanisms act as biological switches that can literally turn certain genes on or off. And what exactly flips those switches? Our environment. For a long time, we've known that things like pollutants, your diet, and chronic stress can trigger epigenetic changes. But scientists are now realizing something wild. Our digital environments act as a completely new kind of environmental exposure. The constant algorithmic stimulation, the cognitive offloading, the low-level tech stress. These daily habits can fuel epigenetic markers that literally alter our physiological state. It's even contributing to something scientists call epigenetic aging. This takes us into Section 4, passing down digital traits. Okay, prepare to have your mind blown, because we need to talk about transgenerational epigenetic inheritance. This is the scientifically proven reality that epimutations, or epigenetic changes, caused by your environment can actually be passed down to your future offspring. The environmental exposure you are experiencing right now doesn't just impact your own gene expression. It can be transmitted through the germline, the sperm, or the egg, without altering a single letter of the actual genetic code. To put that into perspective, look at this rat model. Let's say a gestating mother, the F0 generation, is exposed to an environmental trigger, while the F1 fetus, growing inside her, is directly exposed to that too. But incredibly, the reproductive germ cells inside that fetus, the cells that will eventually become the F2 generation, are also directly exposed at that exact same time. Because of this, scientists say true transgenerational inheritance, a trait passed down with zero direct environmental exposure, is really only visible once we hit the F3 generation. That's the great-grand offspring. Which loops us right back to that crazy question we started with. If stress and our cognitive environments leave lasting epigenetic marks, how is our heavy reliance on AI and algorithms right now programming the biological stress response or the cognitive baseline of our unborn great-grandchildren? Guys, we are essentially running a massive, real-time global biological experiment on ourselves.
Let's zoom out a bit for Section 5, the rise of Homo digitalis. To really grasp the scale of this, we have to look at niche construction theory. It works in 3 steps. Step 1. Organisms don't just passively adapt to their surroundings. They actively alter their environment through their behaviors. Step 2. That newly altered environment then shifts the evolutionary pressures required to survive in it. And Step 3. Those modifications are passed down across generations as ecological inheritance. Well, humans are the ultimate niche constructors. By building these massive, pervasive digital and AI ecosystems, we are fundamentally altering the very conditions of our own survival. A great way to think about this is the lactose tolerance parallel. Thousands of years ago, humans started domesticating cattle. That was a huge act of niche construction. It radically changed our environment and created massive evolutionary pressure, which eventually resulted in lactase persistence, our biological ability to actually digest milk as adults. We co-evolved with our cattle. Today, we are building a profound digital niche, which means, for better or worse, our brains and biology are currently co-evolving with our machines.
But this new digital niche comes with a pretty serious trap, known as the automation paradox. As AI systems become insanely competent, we humans get fewer and fewer opportunities to actually practice crucial skills. If we just delegate our reasoning and executive functions to an AI, we become fragile, long-term dependent users. So when the AI inevitably glitches or fails, we literally lack the cognitive experience to fix it. It's a dangerous de-skilling of the human mind that slowly erodes the very functions that make us capable in the first place.
So how do we fix it? That brings us to our final section, choosing hybrid intelligence. We really need to flip the script on how we view our own minds. Moving forward, we have to treat human intelligence like a depreciating asset. Think of your brain just like a physical muscle or a high-end sports car. Your cognitive faculties require active friction, challenge, and constant servicing to avoid atrophy. If you don't actively work to maintain your capacity for deep, difficult thought, it will absolutely depreciate. We are essentially standing at a crossroads between passive replacement and active augmentation. Passive replacement is exactly what it sounds like, letting AI do the thinking for us, which leads to cognitive laziness, decreased gray matter, and basically becoming subservient to algorithms. Active augmentation, on the other hand, is the sweet spot. That means using AI to handle the mundane, repetitive tasks, specifically so you can free up your cognitive space for higher-order strategy, deep learning, and complex synthesis. In that model, you are the one guiding the algorithm's power. Look, human cognition is becoming irreversibly hybrid. That's just a fact. We are co-evolving with our creations right now. So I want to leave you with one final provocative thought. As we move into this new era, are you going to be the pilot of your technology, maintaining the sovereignty of your own mind? Or are you just going to be a passenger? Remember, the choices you make today don't just shape your brain, they very well might shape the biology of generations to come. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and remember to keep actively challenging that brilliant brain of yours.